So on Friday, you were to take the 2018 multiple choice in AP Classroom, which most of you did, and most of you submitted it, but some of you took it and never submitted your work for it on this Google form. If that's the case and you have the work, you can put it in this basket right here. But it was 5 points just for doing it and 5 for the work, and it wasn't really based on how well you did on it. Everybody was a 3 or better. But some of you didn't fill out this Google form. For distance learners, it was 3 things that came in, and they say what they are in the Google form. For face-to-face is 2 things, because it's hard to keep these balanced. Also, there's a ton of extra credit that's going out, and it's in test point category. So if you come to me with a B+, and you're like, what can I do for an A-, I'm going to say absolutely what? Now, don't even come to me. It's awkward. It's an awkward conversation to have that I've had all this stuff. So if you're on a grade bubble, it is what it is, but there's been a lot of stuff. I think what I'm going to do with it, though, is I'm going to make a single Google form that I have notify me when something gets turned in, because I honestly don't care when it gets in, as long as it's in before when? AP exam, but singletons that are random, I think that'll be easier for me. I've never done it this way. We are a week off from what we normally are. See, we were originally told that we were testing at the end of May. Did you guys know that? Like the 24th-ish. However, AP Physics, which a lot of you double back with AP Calc, on that day there was an issue and it affected the physics. So I was asked if I'd be okay with you guys testing on the earlier date. And I was totally fine. You'll be ready, you'll be just fine. And I kind of, don't you just want to be done anyway? Like, we're going to be fine. Otherwise, it messed up. I think when we counted up the total, you'd have to ask Miss Anderson, but it affected like 19, and that's a big chunk of kids that double back with either Calc A, B, B, C, and AP Physics, and so it was an issue on that later date. So we're taking it on the 4th, which means we have a little less time to review than I'd originally thought. Normally what I do, not normally because it only started last year, but you guys might remember, you know how they had those AP Daily Live videos on YouTube? Some of them can be really good. They're hit and miss, but they're usually a little harder than what you're tested on, and it gives you a little bit of somebody else's flavor added to it. But because they're hit or miss and times at a crunch, and they're live, so I can't like view it before I sign it. Does that make sense? And I don't want you watching something for an hour where you get like 1 minute of something like, oh, LaRue never said that, or you know what I mean? So those start tonight, and for BC, the dates, they run live, so you have to do it at the time that they're on. You'll have to click on that link if you're interested. Tonight's topic, I believe, is series. But we're going to review series in here on Wednesday. So, but if series is an issue for you, you might want to watch it. You also get 2 points extra credit. What you would need to turn in for me for that is in the comments, just like last year, they have the handout that goes with the video. So if you don't have a printer at home, just do it in notebook paper. Any questions on that? Because that's going to run nightly for, I think, 2 full weeks. So you could rack up a good chunk. They're long, but they're good. They're just not always good. Yeah. BC is not, it's the same as was for last year, and they're great. The AB was hit or miss. His name's Brian Passwater, I think is who's running it. You guys had a lady, right? And a guy? Yeah, they're still doing the AB. They're hit or miss. They can get kind of goofy, right? Yeah, and it gets annoying because it wastes time. That's why. And again, I don't want to assign it to everybody, because even just based on the 2018 multiple choice, there were 5 people in the 40s, and there were 2 bad questions on there. One that had a wrong answer, and did you notice one mixed X's with T's? Which there's a typo in there, and I couldn't quite figure out what the deal was. And then they had a wrong answer on one that all of you chose. It was an easy question about a rate of change of a rate, and so it was like hours per. Do you guys get to see your results when you take it? Yeah, you can see which ones you get wrong. I don't know how that you could. Oh, okay. So you can all add 2 to your score for a bad question, and probably the easiest one on the test they had a wrong answer for. Even with that, there were people in the 40s, and so like I said, I don't want them having to watch an hour. So it's extra credit for those of you who are either nervous about the exam or you need the extra credit for your grade. Today what we're going to do is the most missed, which those are big days, but it won't be as long as our last most missed day. I'm hoping to be done in 20 minutes-ish. And then this week we're gonna focus primarily on FRQs because we just did solid multiple choice for a while. All right, distance learners, I hope you got all that. If you have any questions, you just email me, okay guys? We're gonna hop on, and I hope, is Kelly back yet?
Yeah.
Did they have my copies? Yes. All right. So because I was hoping we had the copies, because when I screenshot these out of AP Classroom, I can't get them to fit on the page if I enlarge them. So you'll be able to see it on here a little better. The absolute most missed were those two weird questions, so I didn't put those on here. I should actually send in an error report, but the AP Classroom, that test had two.
I didn't see my issues.
I know I got that one.
You were in the fourth.
Hey, that works. Everybody says that.
All right. So, do you need one time? All right, so I'm going to go fairly fast because not all of you need to listen. I don't like to go over every problem. Here we go. The first most missed one. Yes? One more? Okay. Those of you at home, just do these on a separate sheet of paper or something. These, will you pass that back? All right, so the first one was an AB limit question. I think some of you read it too fast. You're like, oh, easy limits. I'm approaching -7 from the left. Let's choose -1, and you plugged it in. But be careful, because this isn't -7 from the left. It's from both sides. And you actually have to do what I called last year. You have to slow your roll and be a what? Creeper. You have to come in at -7 from both directions. I would choose this, and I'd choose that, and I'd plug them in. And if you get the same thing, then that's your answer. But when you choose a -7.0001, the top is negative, right? And what's the bottom? Positive, the same thing. I get a 1. But when I approach from the other direction, right? What's the top? Positive. And what's the bottom? Positive of the same thing. They actually approach 1 and -1. We did multiple ones like that last year, but none this year. So I get why that was a most missed. But does that make sense? It means as you come in from the left, you're at +1, and as you come in from the right, you're at -1. So it kind of looks like that. Or the other way around, I mean, sorry, I said it backwards. So make sure you creep in on those. The next one was the sum, or this is a BC, of a geometric series. So you need to know that the sum is the first term over 1 minus the common ratio. 10 people had it right, 10 had it wrong. I kind of use 50 as my deal breaker. So let's see about why people were picking this one. I think I know why. Be careful. Your A is pi over E, right? It's the start, that first one. How do you figure out the R? I think Emily D, you asked me this one time. Like if I don't, it's not told to me, how do I decide what it is? And I gave you this elementary school one. And I said, what are you multiplying by? And you said 2. And I said, well, it's actually this divided by this divided by that. You divide 1 by its predecessor. So if you take negative pi over E squared, right, and divide it by pi over E, what do you get? So what I'm saying is you're dividing 1 by the 1 in front of it if you can't figure out what you're multiplying by. What do you think? -1 over E. And some of you, what do you think this came from? Probably 1 over E, right? So it'd be 1 minus 1 over E. That's not sitting there. So like I said, with multiple choice, if that's an FRQ, Katie, you leave it. Multiple choice, we got to clean it up. Do you remember how to clean that up, Witter? Yeah. If you can't hear her deal, I'll try to repeat what they say. I just hate just being super quiet here. She said do the crisscross on the bottom. So E plus 1 over E, right? E plus 1 over E, multiply by a reciprocal, and there's B. So half of you had that wrong. When I checked last night, some hadn't taken it yet. I think it looks like I had 20 of you to get data from. This one, kind of tricky, but I'm going to repeat what I say with these Maclaurin series and Taylor series. Write it all out. Write out what you know. Are you ready? F prime. And I'm going to go slower on this one because you can see this one had a big issue. Only 6 got it right. 14 got it wrong. So this means I need to revisit this. If f prime of x equals sine of x squared, and then they're telling me a starting point, they're basically giving me Carl. I'm going to say, Carl, what? Kind of, yeah, because how do I go from f prime back to f? What calculus operation takes us there? Integral. So f of x will be the antiderivative of sine x squared dx. And I want the Maclaurin series for it. Do I know the Maclaurin for sine x squared? You kind of have to ask yourself that. I don't, but I know the Maclaurin for sine x. Exactly. So this is the kind where we'd expand it, right? And I'd say you can modify it as long as the center isn't changed, and we're centered at 0. All right, are you listening, Connor? All right, so here we go. If I were to do sine x, I'm going to go do it over here. Sine x's, and again, I know I should be writing more notation, but it's multiple choice. Even or odd, or what does it start with? 1 or x? X. Then what? Minus x cubed over what? 3 factorial plus x to the 5th over 5 factorial, and I only need the first 3, I think, so I'm just going to leave it there. Are we good so far with that? So that's sine of x, but I'm supposed to integrate sine of x squared, and we did all this. It's just pooling about 4 things together in one question. So it's a hard question, don't you think, Daniel? It's a hard question, but you were taught every piece of it. All right, so sine of x squared, what do I do with the x squared, Gates? Plug it into everything. I would get an x squared minus x squared to the 3rd over 3 factorial plus x squared to the 5th, or x to the 10th, over 5 factorial. I'm writing it all out because guess what the most common wrong answer of 9 of you picking forgot to do? What have we been doing all this chapter, or all that chapter? What did you guys forget to do? You do everything correct, but at the end, what would we forget? Factorial on the bottom, and that's it. It's still happening. So I'm going to tell you, keep writing it out. Writing it out. All right. This one's out, because I'm integrating that. So I'm going to put sine x squared's expansion in here. Only need the first 3, right? Put the factorials in there. So why did I say the first 2 are out? Because of this super easy antiderivative, x cubed thirds, right? The next one would be x to the 7th over 7 times what? 3 factorial. Perfect, which is 6, which gives us this guy for D. That was probably the second most missed one. I love this question because you have to have a real deep understanding of what's going on. You guys can find interval of convergences and you know to test the endpoints, but this tells me that you don't quite get it in terms of all of this notation. So that's fine. We're going to pick it apart. First of all, what is the center of that power series? What's the center? 4. It's always x minus c, right? It's centered at 4. So I'm just going to make a very fake graph. 1, 2, 3, 4 is where it's centered. Converges at 7. So at 7, we're converging, right? And it says it diverges at 9. So I'm going to make a fake like this. I'm going to hop on with my polynomial, okay? And it means at 7, it was convergent. I know at 9, it wasn't. Between 7 and 9, I'm not sure about anything. It may or may not, right? So take a look. What's my radius of convergence? For sure, because it says which must be true. For sure, it's at a minimum of what? 3. And I converge at 7, which means I go to 1 and you might say, oh, I for sure converge. I don't. Because remember, you have to test the endpoints. So this is a maybe, and I have no way of testing them. Do you agree with me? right? But at a minimum, the radius is 3. So which one has to be true? Do I have to converge at 1? No, I might. That requires further investigation, which I can't do. I don't even know what asymptote is. Do I have to converge at 2? What do you think? Yes, there it is. I don't know what happens at -1. I have no clue. Okay? Does that make sense? It's kind of tricky, but you have to hop on and say, well, I for sure have a radius going up 3. I have to go back 3. That's a maybe. Anything between the two, though, is in the interval of convergence, right? It's just an endpoint that might go off. Did I explain that very well? All right. It's hard to explain because it's such a ambiguous question. AB. I think some of you didn't remember what this means or is telling you about the function, which is fine. But let's go at least put down what we know. We know that from -2 to 2 of f of x dx plus from -2 to 2 of 6 dx is how we'd attack that. We split sums. Right, Lodemeyer? Good to have you back. Nice sweatshirt. This right here, you can do with the fundamental theorem of calculus or geometry. What do I mean by or geometry? Who knows what I'm talking about? Or, what did you say, Carl? Yeah, there's a rectangle that when I move this up 6, it'll be 6 up and 4 across. Emily might say, I don't like that. Then she's going to go like this and do 12 minus -12. Regardless, what's the plus 6 contributing to the area? All right, this is what you don't know. And you really can't figure this out without knowing what this is telling you and what we said last year on one day. It's a weird one to throw on there. We did cover it for like one day. For like 10 minutes, we practiced 2 kinds of functions that had special properties. Do you remember what that is from pre-calc when f of -x equals negative f of x? What are they telling you? It's an odd function. And odd functions, watch this. Yeah, I'm going to make our most common even function, x squared. If I go from 0 to 2, -2 to 0, for even functions, they're the same, right? So if this had been an even function and 0 to 2 was 5, then -2 to 2 would be 10. But if it's an odd function, like a cubic, I'll make a very, what would this be? Not 3, but -3. For odd functions, what happens to the different pieces of area? They cancel out. We did it on the bottom of a worksheet for about a day. And those of you who remembered that, kudos. Or maybe it was a guess, I don't know. But that's an obscure, you probably won't be asked that ever again. But 24 was the correct answer. Next one up was, I liked this one. And I like that the wrong answer was really good. But you always have to make sure that when you're debating between two, make sure you kind of figure out which one. Don't just choose the first one, because these two are really similar. So it says, which could be a second-degree Taylor polynomial? Well, let's write down what that would look like. Go ahead. It's f of 0 plus, go ahead, Toby, plus what? I'm just putting a generic form down. Yep. Yep. Over 1. Yep. Yep. Over 2 factorial. There's the second degree. We have to put in the ingredients. F of 0 is 1. And I only screenshot these first two because really not many people chose. I think one other person chose one of the other ones. All right. So f of 0 is 1. Check. F prime is equal to 2. Right? So let's go write that out. We would have 1 plus 2x. What does that tell me is happening, though? If the slope there is 2, increasing, right? That wasn't particularly, just increasing on both of them, and they're kind of the same. So that wasn't very helpful. And then it'd be minus 2x squared over 2, okay? That also tells me concave down. Those of you who picked A, you totally get it. You just didn't know how to decide between the two you were debating on, right? So you guessed the first one. You must have another way because concavity was good with both of them. The original was good with both of them. Increasing and decreasing was good with both of them. So there must be some way in math to determine which one that is. Who picked the way, or did you just guess? There are 4 people who went farther. I think you did. Yeah, she said, well, they have a different vertex. Do you know how to find the vertex of a parabola? You should. Negative b over 2 times a. If you don't remember how to find a vertex, do you remember how to find an absolute maximum? That's much more powerful, by the way, because that works for all polynomials, right? But you just said, I don't know. I just now know that it's at 1, by the way, so it's got to be this one. But watch. Catherine said, oh, I don't know. Well, she should know, though, that the absolute max has to occur where the derivative is equal to 0. Where does that happen? Same place, right? So if you don't remember your algebra 2, right? At least remember the calculus, which is more powerful because that could have been a cubic and then you'd have to go to calculus. Are we good with that one? Because that's a super easy question. But a bunch of you forgot how to figure out where it peak out. All right, next up. Those were our most missed. Next up was knowing which one of these is the least. I wouldn't memorize things. I would just sort of get an idea. Left, go up and hit on the left. Go up and hit on the left. Go up and hit on the left. This is AB again. You'll notice it's AB in series. Isn't that pretty much all we So we'll be reviewing. That's anticipated. Series is coming back at you at the end of the week. AB we just kind of picked through, so I can't cover all of AB. All right, here we go. Is my left an over or an under estimate? Yes, I'm going to put that over here. What does this represent? The actual, okay, which will be under the left. So I'm going to use A for actual. Is that okay? I might have something squeezed between them. I don't know yet. Next up, let's talk about what other ones are referenced. Let's just do all of them. A right. Over or under? Under. Which one am I missing? Trapezoidal. It's concave down. Trapezoidal will also be under. Right? But will it be under as much as the right? No. What does it ask me for? The least. Right? There's a midpoint one, and the midpoint tends to balance it out a little bit better. So do you see how if I hit in the middle, I'm kind of hitting and missing, hitting and missing? So which one's for sure the lowest? Right. I mean, correct, it's right. Not left. There. All right. Go ahead and make sure you can do that. If you just sort of look at it, do you think this, do you think LaRue, because you've been with me for a long time, does LaRue think this is on a scale of 1 to 10, easy or extremely difficult? I think it's about a 2. I do. I think it's a 2 for easiness as long as you don't try to power through it without a sketch. Does that make sense? Like if you just read them, I would be going, I don't think I would do it without, because I'd be debating between the right and the trapezoid, and I would sketch it out. Right? Oh, I circled A because I said, what does this? Okay. Yeah, no, I said, what does this notation mean? The answer isn't A, it's C. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's my fault, not yours. Next one. Scale of 1 to 10. This is very interesting compared to other years. Those of you who know how to do this one and take the correct approach should be able to do it in your head. And I call this 3 in terms of discussion. This is easy as well. Who do we always try first? U sub, right? Who's U? X squared minus 4. Who's du? 2x dx. Ooh, better use a 1/2 fraction correction. Out go A, B, D. And is that even set up for arctan? No. was your U choice? Yeah, we had 1/2. Oops, I better get closer. We have, again, this one, the A, B ones that are getting you are kind of weird. But that's okay, because the hard BC, like, there wasn't a polar issue, there wasn't a parametric one, that was an issue. That's good. But what this tells me is some of you might 5 the BC and have a lower subscore, which rarely happens. Rarely. It's happened like twice in my, but where are we? 1/u, 1/2 du, right? Passes off to natural log, absolute value of our U choice. Right, Gunnar? That's easy, right? Right, Gunnar?
Yeah.
Super easy. Next one up. This one, I've talked about this one before. In 2008, it's the only year they ever threw out a multiple choice question.
You missed one.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
And it was this one, but I missed one. AB or BC? AB again. In the XY plane, I have a line. I don't like my lines written like that, so I'm going to go like this. And it's tangent to the graph of a, boy, our visual's good. You should be drawing pictures for everything. Draw a fake or a real parabola. If you really want it real, you'd say, oh, the vertex is at -1/2. It doesn't really matter. It opens up, right? Goes through 0, 1. Just draw a fake one, even if it's not on the grid. It says, I have a line tangent to the graph, right? And this is what it looks like. What do I know about that line? It has a -1 for the slope, so I'm going to put it over here, kind of where on my cheesy graph. What's the value of k? Slope of the tangent line is equal to the what of the graph? Derivative. 2x plus 3. What does LaRue think? 1 to 10. 1. 1, right? Set the derivative equal to the slope of the tangent line. Yes, you got the 10s right. Except that sine x squared one. I would have put that in one of the harder categories. The 10s didn't pop. This would be a 10, I guess, on the AB level. And then we have one more that's also AB. So I think next week we're going to do a little bit more AB, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So horizontal asymptotes. Oh, if only you could graph it. Well, you can't. But if you did, you'd actually see 2 of them. Remember what a horizontal asymptote is. Don't use little shortcuts. You can, but make sure, you might say, oh, when the powers are tied, I just steal the coefficients. Well, that's when they're exponential functions, first of all, right? Minus 3x squared, whatever. Okay, now it's 3/4, but it doesn't apply to those, right? Polynomials it works for. But in terms of calculus, there are limits as we approach what? The infinities. Okay, so that's where that one gets a little goofy. Because when you go to positive infinity, you mean nothing and you mean nothing, and they are basically tied, right? Where do you think there's a horizontal asymptote running on that graph? At -1. And that was the most common wrong answer. The reason they threw this one out that year, it's been the only year I've ever seen where they've scored the multiple choice out of 44. And it wasn't because so many people got it wrong. It's because the people who got 5s and 4s got it wrong more than the 1s and 2s. Which indicates the 1s and 2s were doing what? Guessing. And the 4s and 5s were picking A. So that they threw that question out. But it's still been coming in on practice exams. So watch, like you can go ahead and approach negative infinity. Now watch what happens. I'd have 5 plus 1/2 to the infinity, basically. And 1 minus 1/2 to the infinity, basically. Again, you shouldn't treat infinity as a number, but multiple choice, treat infinity as a number. All right? What does that give you? 5/1. Isn't that weird reading? All right, so the correct answer was E. Very few 4s and 5s got that right that year. And our last one. Good, I wanted to be halfway. But like I wanted you to have about 20, 25 minutes to start today's assignment. We're done. I mean, I wanted to be halfway done with the hour when I finish this. All right, we've got an interview. Interval from 2 to 4. twice differentiable on an open interval. F prime of 3 equals 2. I'm going to go make a fake graph. I just like them. 2 to 4. All right, F prime at 3 is 2. I'm continuous. F double prime is less than 0. That's the kicker here. What does that mean F prime has to do? Decrease. Okay, so I'm going to go make a function where F prime decreases, or it's basically concave down, right? So I'm going to go make one that fits the bill, and let's, wherever 2 goes through, the slope is, it's got to be going uphill with a slope of 2 right there. So when it says F prime is less than 0 on the open interval, right? F double prime, I mean, it means F prime is increasing. So F prime over here and F prime over here are different. Go ahead and tell me what has to happen over here. Greater than 2, right? F prime over here has to be less than 2. Right here, you weren't given any F primes. What do you think I'm going to do to figure out what's happening with F prime? Look at the F, yeah, watch. So I'm going to go look at the average. This would be 2.5 over 1. This would be 1.5 over 1. F prime is decreasing. That's still a runner. Does that make sense? F prime was decreasing. Right here, 2.5 over 1. Right here, 2 over 1. F prime still decreasing. Go do it on the other 2. What's this one over here going to be? F prime would be 2, an estimate, average value, right? How about over here? 1.5. Okay, let's go over to this one. It's a pain, but 2 and 2. I'm just doing average, slope of a secant line. But remember, there has to be at least one place where the slope of the tangent line is the same thing. Based on what theorem? MVT. All right, so let's go figure out who's out. All right, E, in or out? Out. F prime's increasing. F double would be positive. D, in or out? Out. Okay. Remember, we're on the open interval from 2 to 4. C, in or out? Technically still in, but I'm going to say out. But technically, F prime did decrease. All right? But use this fact over here. I'm going to draw it again. This one was kind of a hard one to do. F prime at 3. Sorry, F prime at 3 was 2. Right? And F prime is decreasing, so it's less than 2 over here, and it's greater than 2 over here. Not greater than or equal to 2. We agreed? Who else is out? A is good. Why is that one out? Why is this one out? Because F prime has to equal 3, right? I'm sorry, F prime of 3 has to equal 2. I can't. You see the doubled up 2's and 2's and 2's and 2's? It's got to be this sucker. That one's kind of tricky. I think I'm done. All right, today. That one was kind of goofy. Those table reading ones are hard. We'll find a couple more and do those. So for the next couple days, we're doing FRQs. I'd like you to get in 20 minutes here, or do we have 15? I may have to extend the due date on this. You know what I might do?
What might you do?
I really want to get it accurate. I'm just going to extend the due date on it. All right. So technically, I didn't think those warm-ups would take us that long, but it's okay. They're good days. You're going to do the 2017. This is 2017, 2018. This is actually today, tomorrow, and I think I'll probably push it into Wednesday. Just watch the schedule. Today was due 2017. Tomorrow when you come in, you're supposed to score it, and then start 2018. We'll reassess at the end of tomorrow. If you're wasting this time today, waste the time after you correct your 217 tomorrow, it's due Wednesday. Alright, otherwise I'll extend it. So start with number 1. Some of these might seem, these are the actual ones. So 2017 number 1, calculator or no calculator? Calculator for the first 2. We're hoping you get 5s and 8 that put. Like of the 6 of these, I was hoping you can score 30 or better cumulatively. That's actually a 5 level, 26, 7, 8. So 2017 today, correct, and start 2000. Oh. Are we all going? What time does it start? 1. Bye. Don't forget your homework. Bye.
I don't use, but I want.
Where are you going?
I just said I'm very confused. I want.
Gunner's just leaving.
All right. Go ahead. Start.
She's going.
Let's go.
100%.
Daniel, you're in the 40s.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think.
Did I hit the 3 you got wrong? Or
Yeah, I
did you
think
know?
those were the exact three I got
Oh, were they?
So do all of them for tomorrow.
Yeah, I have time slotted tomorrow to score them. So if you're not done, I guess you just have to finish it. If you have to pick a day, either today or tomorrow, we're gonna have. You should be able to get 2 of them done.
The question is, do I want to start tomorrow? Today is pretty good.
But remember, if you waste this time, then if we're not done, I don't extend the duty. So have your fellow classmates in mind and at least pretend you're. Right, Toby? So that those who are working, I don't know how long this takes you guys. They say budget 15 minutes, but sometimes you guys crank these out in 5.
I don't.
Depends on the topic.
Also depends on the student.
Harvey, what is this that you just gave me?
It's for the multiple.
Oh, it's your work.
I have a Nutrigrain bar.
Yes. Those of you who didn't take the 2018, that one in is test points. Like, that's ballsy.
Is there test points based on what you scored?
No.
Points for completion?
Just that you did it and that you submitted the work for it. Otherwise, I assume you guessed it to get it. So that's why I asked them.
What is it? What is it? 3?
I could actually figure that out. 45. About 23 right or better.
Is it 3?
Usually our FRQs are stronger though, so if you got a 3, you'll probably get a 4. That's my guess. I'll bring that one up. That one might have had that was a tricky one, so it might have lower. I'll bring up the score sheet for it. Let me think of where it is. Oops, I forgot to turn this off. Sorry, distance learners. You could have been gone a long time.